The Galactic Council chamber hummed with the nervous energy of 300 species, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and telepathic waves. Ambassador Zektar of the Vraxian Empire shifted his crystalline form, the light refracting through his body casting rainbow patterns on the polished floor. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The humans have requested an audience, announced High Chancellor Mordun, her 8 arms gesturing toward the massive viewing screen. They wish to discuss what they call their military reorganization. A collective shudder ran through the assembly. The humans had been members of the Galactic Council for barely 50 standard years, yet they had already proven themselves to be the most unpredictable species anyone had encountered. Unlike other races that specialized in single aspects of warfare, technology, or diplomacy, humans seemed to excel at everything while maintaining an alarming tendency toward creative violence. Admiral Kethros of the Zalarian fleet leaned forward, his blue-scaled head tilting with concern. What kind of reorganization? Their current military structure already confuses our analysts. They have armies, navies, air forces, space marines, and dozens of other subdivisions. How can they possibly need more? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Every species in the galaxy had their military organized in logical, predictable ways. The Vraxians had their crystal legions, masters of energy manipulation. The Zalarians commanded the Tide fleets, unmatched in space naval combat. The insectoid hive clusters operated through perfect coordination and overwhelming numbers. Each race had found their niche and perfected it over millennia. Humans were different, dangerously different. According to their preliminary reports, Chancellor Mordun continued, her voice barely concealing her unease. They are creating something they call Special Operations Forces. The translation algorithms are having difficulty with the concept, but it appears to involve small units of enhanced soldiers capable of operating independently behind enemy lines. Ambassador Zektar's crystalline form darkened. Enhanced how? Are they talking about genetic modification? Cybernetic implants? We've seen what humans can accomplish with basic augmentation. The memory of the Proxima incident still haunted many council members. A single human squadron had infiltrated a heavily fortified pirate stronghold that had resisted 3 different alien military campaigns. Using nothing but standard equipment and what they called tactical thinking, the humans had eliminated the entire operation in less than 6 hours. The recording of the mission had been classified by unanimous vote after several council members suffered what humans might call nervous breakdowns from watching it. The reports mentioned something called selection processes. The Chancellor continued, her multiple eyes scanning the document with growing alarm. Apparently, they take their already formidable soldiers and subject them to trials that eliminate 90% of candidates. The survivors undergo training that our xenobiologists claim should be fatal to human physiology. Dr. Yilmoth, the Council's chief medical advisor and a member of the Pacifist Healing Consortium, spoke up with his characteristic whistling voice. I've been studying human military psychology for 3 decades. Their standard infantry already demonstrates aggression levels that would be considered psychotic in most species. If they're selecting the most extreme examples and then enhancing them further. He trailed off, his feathered crest turning pale. The implications were staggering. Regular human soldiers were already legendary throughout the galaxy for their refusal to surrender, their ability to fight effectively while wounded, and their disturbing tendency to become more dangerous when outnumbered. The Battle of Kepler Station remained required study in military academies across 100 worlds, not for tactical brilliance, but as an example of how humans could turn a hopeless defensive action into a crushing victory through pure stubborn fury. What's their stated purpose for these special forces? Asked Commander HFY Sci-Fi of the Reptilian Defense Corps, her forked tongue tasting the air nervously. Chancellor Mordun's expression grew even more troubled. Counterterrorism, hostage rescue, deep reconnaissance, and what they term direct action against high-value targets. They claim these units will be used only for precision operations where conventional forces would be inappropriate. The chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. The Vraxians' crystals rang like wind chimes. The aquatic collective's representatives sent out waves of distressed sonar, and the hive cluster's synchronized clicking reached a frantic tempo. The idea of humans with even more focused lethality was terrifying enough, but the casual way they described direct action against high-value targets suggested a level of operational thinking that most species couldn't comprehend. Admiral Kethros raised his voice above the din. "We need to understand what we're dealing with. Has anyone actually observed these special forces in action?" A heavy silence fell over the chamber. It was Ambassador Feldar of the Merchant Coalition who finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. 3 months ago, a human freighter was captured by the Shadow Syndicate near the Outer Rim. The pirates demanded ransom and threatened to execute the crew. Standard protocol called for negotiation through established channels. He paused, his multiple eye stalks weaving nervously. Instead, something happened. The pirate base simply went dark. All communications ceased. When Coalition patrol ships arrived to investigate, they found the entire facility intact but empty. No signs of battle, no weapon discharges, no structural damage. Just empty corridors and silent rooms. "The human crew?" prompted Chancellor Mordaunt. "Safe and unharmed, waiting calmly in their ship's cargo bay." When questioned, they claimed they had been sleeping and heard some bumping sounds during the night. The ship's security footage showed nothing unusual. It was as if 200 pirates had simply vanished into space. Dr. Yilmoth's crest was now completely white. The pirates were found 6 weeks later on a penal colony 3 systems away, all suffering from severe psychological trauma. None could remember how they had gotten there or what had happened to them. Medical scans showed evidence of chemical sedation and temporary memory suppression. The implications struck the assembly like a physical blow. Somehow, human operators had infiltrated a heavily defended pirate base, neutralized 200 criminals without killing any of them, extracted the hostages, and deposited the pirates safely in custody, all without leaving any evidence of their presence or methods. "How is such a thing possible?" whispered Commander HFY Sal. Ambassador Zektar's crystalline form shifted to a deep red hue, indicating extreme agitation. "We've been analyzing human military doctrine for 50 years, and we still don't understand how their minds work. They think in ways that our greatest strategic computers can't predict. They see patterns where we see chaos, find weaknesses where we see strength, and accomplish objectives that our analysts declare impossible." The Chancellor called for order as the chamber descended into worried discussions. "The humans have requested permission to demonstrate their new Special Forces capabilities during the upcoming war games. They want to show us what they call a small sample of our enhanced operational capacity." This announcement created an even greater stir. The annual Galactic War Games were supposed to be a friendly competition between allied militaries, a chance to practice cooperation and test new technologies in a controlled environment. The idea of unleashing enhanced human warriors in even a simulated conflict made several species representatives visibly ill. "Perhaps," suggested Admiral Kethros carefully, "we should decline this demonstration. For safety reasons." "I'm afraid it's too late for that," the Chancellor replied grimly. "The demonstration is scheduled for tomorrow. They've already deployed their forces to the exercise area." The blood drained from several faces capable of such a reaction. One thing everyone had learned about humans was that once they committed to a course of action, stopping them was virtually impossible. Their species seemed to view obstacles not as barriers but as puzzles to be solved through application of violence, cunning, or simple brute force persistence. "How many of these special forces are participating?" asked Dr. Yilmoth, though his tone suggested he dreaded the answer. Chancellor Mordaunt consulted her notes. "According to their deployment manifest, they're sending 12 individuals. 12. Not 12 units, not 12 squads, not 12 companies. 12 individual humans to participate in war games designed for entire fleets and armies." Ambassador Zektar's crystalline form began to vibrate with harmonics that indicated deep philosophical confusion. 12 soldiers against the combined military exercises of 300 species? Surely this is some form of human humor that we don't understand. But even as he spoke the words, every being in the chamber knew better. Humans didn't joke about warfare. When they said 12 Special Forces operators, they meant exactly that. And if their past performance was any indication, Those 12 individuals represented a force that could potentially reshape the entire nature of galactic conflict. The meeting adjourned in an atmosphere of barely controlled dread. As representatives filed out to contact their home governments, one thought echoed through every mind present. If regular human soldiers could accomplish the impossible, what exactly would their special forces be capable of? The answer, they would discover, was far beyond their worst fears. In less than 24 hours, the Galactic Council would learn why humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of small unit operations, and why the most dangerous predators on Earth had always been the ones that hunted in packs too small to see coming. The war games were about to become something else entirely. Something that would change how every species in the galaxy thought about warfare, about humans, and about the thin line between civilization and controlled chaos. But that revelation was still hours away, and, for now, the council members could only wait and wonder what new impossibility the humans would demonstrate next. The only certainty was that when the demonstration ended, the galaxy would be a very different place. Some changes, they were beginning to realize, couldn't be undone. The Nexus 7 system had been chosen for the war games because of its perfect balance of challenging terrain and strategic value. 3 planets, 2 asteroid fields, and a nebula cluster provided every possible environment for military exercises. What made it truly ideal was the monitoring station positioned at the system's edge, equipped with sensors capable of tracking every ship, every energy signature, and every communication in real time. Admiral Kethros stood in the central command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of over 40 different fleets from various council species. Each group represented the military pride of their civilization, equipped with their finest technology and most experienced commanders. The total force numbered nearly 2 million soldiers, support staff, and observers. Somewhere in that vast deployment were 12 humans. Status report. Admiral Kethros called out, his blue scales reflecting the glow of tactical displays. Commander Vythl, his chief of operations, manipulated the main hologram with practiced efficiency. All fleets are in position. The Vraxian Crystal Legions have established defensive positions around Nexus Prime. The Hive clusters are maintaining patrol patterns in the asteroid fields. The Aquatic Collective has deployed their deep space units in the nebula. And the humans? Vythl's expression darkened. That's problematic, sir. We lost track of their insertion craft approximately 6 hours ago. Lost track? How do you lose track of a military vessel in a heavily monitored system? The craft simply vanished from all sensors simultaneously. No energy signatures, no gravitational anomalies, nothing. One moment it was there, the next it wasn't. Our technicians believe it may have been some form of advanced stealth technology. Admiral Kethros felt his primary stomach clench with anxiety. In 50 years of studying human military capabilities, the one constant had been their ability to exceed every prediction. If they had developed stealth technology that could fool council sensors, the implications were staggering. What was their stated objective for this exercise? According to the briefing documents, they intend to demonstrate surgical strike capabilities against hardened targets with minimal collateral damage and maximum psychological impact. Vythl paused, consulting his notes. They also mentioned something about decapitation strikes and force multiplication through precision application. The Admiral's secondary stomach joined the first in expressing distress. Human military terminology often sounded poetic until you realized they meant every word literally. When humans talked about surgical precision, they typically meant exactly that, down to the millimeter. Begin the exercise, he ordered, hoping that whatever the humans had planned would be contained within acceptable parameters. The first phase involved standard fleet movements and defensive positioning. For 3 hours, everything proceeded normally. The various species forces maneuvered according to established doctrine, practiced their communication protocols, and demonstrated their technological capabilities. It was, by all accounts, a perfectly routine military exercise. Then, the humans made their presence known. The first indication came from the Vraxian fleet protecting Nexus Prime. Admiral Zephtol, commanding from the battleship Crystal Dominance, was reviewing defensive positions when his communications officer reported an anomaly. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planetary defense grid. They're reporting that all automated weapon systems have been deactivated. Deactivated? By whom? Unknown, sir. The systems show no signs of external interference, no hack attempts, no forced shutdowns. They simply stopped working. All safety protocols report normal operation, but every weapon is offline. Before Admiral Zeftol could respond, similar reports flooded in from across the system. The Hive Cluster's coordination network had experienced temporary malfunctions that left their forces unable to communicate effectively. The aquatic collective's deep space sensors were displaying false readings that made navigation nearly impossible. Even the monitoring station's own systems were experiencing mysterious glitches. "This is impossible," muttered Commander Vythl, frantically working to restore normal function to the observation equipment. "These systems are completely isolated from each other. There's no way a single infiltration could affect them all simultaneously." Admiral Kethros was beginning to understand the true scope of what they were witnessing. Unless it wasn't a single infiltration, how many targets would 12 operators need to hit to cause this level of system-wide disruption? The question hung in the air as technicians and analysts worked desperately to map the cascade of failures. The answer, when it came, sent chills through every observer. 47 separate locations, reported the chief analyst, her voice tight with disbelief. Critical nodes in communication networks, automated defense systems, sensor arrays, and command bunkers across 3 planets and multiple space stations. All hit simultaneously with no prior detection. 12 humans had somehow identified, infiltrated, and neutralized 47 separate high-security targets without being detected by any of the most advanced sensor networks in the galaxy. The mathematical precision required for such coordination was staggering, but the practical implications were far worse. "They've essentially blinded and deafened our entire force structure," Admiral Kethros realized aloud. "Without communication, sensors, or automated defenses, we're operating with Stone Age effectiveness." As if responding to his words, new reports began flowing in. Ships throughout the system were discovering that their weapon targeting systems had been subtly modified, not disabled, but altered so that they would miss their intended targets by precise margins. The changes were so sophisticated that they appeared to be original factory settings rather than external modifications. The Hive clusters, dependent on their collective coordination, found themselves unable to maintain formation. Individual ships began drifting away from their assigned positions as their navigation systems fed them incorrect course corrections. Within an hour, the most disciplined fleet in the galaxy was scattered across space like debris. But it was the discovery on Nexus Prime that truly demonstrated the scope of human capabilities. The planetary command center, buried 3 kilometers underground and protected by shields that could withstand orbital bombardment, reported that someone had left a gift in the central command room. A gift? Admiral Zeftol's crystalline form shifted through the entire visible spectrum as he processed the report. "What kind of gift?" "A small device, sir. Our analysis indicates it's some form of human entertainment technology called a music box. When activated, it plays a melody while a small figure dances." The implications were clear to everyone listening. Human operators had penetrated the most secure facility in the system, bypassed every defense, and placed a harmless toy in the exact center of command operations. They could just as easily have planted a bomb. Similar discoveries were being made throughout the system. Human operators had left calling cards in impossible locations, each one a gentle but unmistakable message. "We were here. We could have done anything. We chose to be polite." The psychological effect was devastating. Fleet commanders who had spent decades honing their strategic skills found themselves second-guessing every decision. If humans could appear anywhere, anytime, without detection, how could anyone plan an effective defense? How could anyone feel secure? "Admiral," Commander Vythl's voice carried a note of barely controlled panic. "We're receiving a transmission from the human forces. Put it through." The voice that emerged from the speakers was calm, professional, and disturbingly cheerful. "Nexus 7 Command. This is Operational Team Sierra. We've completed our demonstration objectives and are ready to restore all systems to normal operation. Please confirm when you'd like your capabilities returned." Admiral Kethros struggled to find his voice. "Your asking permission to give us back our own systems? Affirmative, sir. We're guests here, and it would be rude to leave your equipment in a non-functional state. We've also prepared a detailed report on the security vulnerabilities we exploited, should you wish to address them in the future. The casual tone was perhaps the most unnerving aspect of the entire demonstration. These humans had just executed the most sophisticated intelligence operation in galactic history, neutralized the combined forces of 300 species, and they were being polite about it. How? Admiral Kethros finally managed. How did 12 individuals accomplish all of this? There was a pause, then a slight chuckle. Sir, with respect, 12 was just what we sent for the demonstration. The actual infiltration required significantly more preparation. We've been studying your systems and procedures for the past 6 months. This exercise area was mapped, analyzed, and pre-staged weeks ago. The revelation hit like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just beaten them in a fair competition. They had turned the entire war game into an elaborate demonstration of capabilities that the rest of the galaxy didn't even know existed. Every ship, every base, every supposedly secure installation had been compromised before the exercise even began. 6 months. Commander Vythl whispered. You've been here for 6 months without anyone detecting you. Actually, sir, our preliminary reconnaissance began 8 months ago. The 6-month figure refers to when we started active preparation for today's demonstration. We wanted to ensure minimal disruption to normal operations. Admiral Kethros felt his world fundamentally shift. Everything he thought he knew about military security, about intelligence operations, about the nature of warfare itself, was revealed to be obsolete. If humans could penetrate any defense, monitor any operation, and strike any target without detection, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? We're transmitting the restoration codes now, the human voice continued. All systems should return to normal operation within the next 10 minutes. We've also included recommendations for improving your defensive protocols, though I should mention that these suggestions address only the most obvious vulnerabilities. As promised, systems throughout the exercise area began coming back online. Weapons systems restored themselves to full function, communication networks resumed normal operation, and sensors once again provided accurate readings. It was as if the entire demonstration had been nothing more than a temporary glitch. Except for the calling cards. Those remained in place, silent reminders of how easily the galaxy's most secure facilities had been penetrated. Thank you for allowing us to participate in your war games. The human transmission concluded. We hope this demonstration has been educational. Operational Team Sierra out. The communication ended, leaving the entire system in stunned silence. Slowly, reports began coming in from across the exercise area. Fleet commanders confirmed that their systems were functioning normally. Base commanders reported that their security was restored. Everything appeared to be exactly as it had been before the demonstration began. Everything except the knowledge that it had all been an illusion. Every defense had been compromised, every secret had been known, every stronghold had been penetrated. The combined military might of 300 species had been reduced to helpless observation, while 12 humans rewrote the rules of warfare. Admiral Kethros slumped in his command chair, suddenly, feeling every one of his 300 years. Commander, prepare a full report for the Galactic Council. Mark it as Priority Alpha and classify it at the highest level. What should the report say, sir? That everything we thought we knew about security and defense is wrong. That humans have developed capabilities we don't understand and can't counter. And that we need to completely rethink our approach to military planning. He paused, staring at the tactical displays that showed fleets slowly resuming their normal positions, unaware that their every movement was probably still being monitored by invisible human operators. And, add a personal recommendation from me to the Council. We need to very seriously consider what it means to have humans as allies rather than enemies. Because after today, I'm not sure there's any meaningful difference between those two options. The demonstration was over, but its implications would reshape galactic civilization for generations to come. The humans had just announced, in the most polite way possible, that they were no longer bound by the same limitations as everyone else. The question now was what they planned to do with that advantage. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened exactly 72 hours after the Nexus 7 demonstration. The Great Chamber, normally filled with the dignified discourse of interstellar diplomacy, buzzed with an energy that bordered on panic. Representatives from 300 species had witnessed something that challenged their fundamental understanding of military capability and strategic balance. Chancellor Mordun called the session to order with uncharacteristic haste. Her 8 arms moved in complex patterns as she addressed the assembly, each gesture carrying the weight of civilizations in crisis. We are gathered to address the implications of what our human allies demonstrated during the recent war games. Before we begin formal discussion, I want to review the facts as we understand them. The main viewing screen illuminated with a comprehensive breakdown of the Nexus 7 incident. Charts, graphs, and tactical overlays painted a picture that grew more disturbing with each detail. 47 simultaneous infiltrations. Complete system compromise across 3 planets. Perfect coordination between operators scattered across light minutes of space. Ambassador Zektar's crystalline form had maintained a deep purple hue since the demonstration, indicating profound unease. Chancellor, before we proceed, I believe we need to address the elephant in the room. He paused, consulting his translation matrix. Or as humans might say, the predator we didn't know was stalking us. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The phrase "predator we didn't know was stalking us" had become popular among council species in the past 3 days, representing their collective realization that humans operated on levels they hadn't imagined. The question before us is simple, Ambassador Zektar continued. How do we coexist with a species that can apparently do anything, to anyone, anywhere, without detection or effective resistance? Dr. Yilmoth, his feathered crest still pale from stress, activated his personal speaking platform. My xenopsychology team has been analyzing human military doctrine since the demonstration. What we've discovered is deeply troubling. This isn't new technology or recent development. Humans have been refining these capabilities for their entire recorded history. He gestured toward a display showing human military evolution. They call it asymmetric warfare and special operations. While other species developed along paths of technological superiority or overwhelming force, humans specialized in achieving impossible objectives with minimal resources. They turned disadvantage into advantage, turned weakness into strength. Admiral Kethros stood, his blue scales reflecting the chamber's lighting in patterns that indicated deep concern. The demonstration wasn't humans showing us their latest innovation. It was humans revealing capabilities they've possessed all along. They've been holding back. The implications of that statement sent shock waves through the assembly. Every species had assumed they understood human military capacity based on previous observations. The revelation that humans had been concealing their true abilities suggested a level of strategic thinking that was almost alien in its complexity. Why reveal themselves now? Asked Commander Titla, her forked tongue tasting the air nervously. What has changed that makes them willing to show their full capabilities? The answer came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Telkar of the Outer Rim Coalition, a region that had experienced recent pirate activity, activated his communication array. Because they're preparing for something, he said, his gravelly voice carrying across the chamber. 3 weeks ago, my government received intelligence reports about unusual movement in the Dark Nebula sector. Ships that match no known configuration, technology that operates beyond our understanding of physics. A chill settled over the assembly. The Dark Nebula had been quarantined for over 1,000 years after contact with its inhabitants had resulted in the complete disappearance of an entire exploratory fleet. Whatever lived in that region operated by rules that defied galactic understanding. The humans know something, Ambassador Telkar continued. They've been preparing for a threat that the rest of us haven't even recognized yet. The demonstration wasn't a show of force directed at us. It was a recruitment presentation. Chancellor Mordun's multiple eyes focused intently on the Outer Rim representative. Recruitment for what? For what they call the big game. According to intercepted communications, human strategic planners believe we're facing an existential threat that will require capabilities beyond conventional warfare. They're not showing off their special forces to intimidate us. They're trying to prove that such forces can protect us. The revelation recontextualized everything about the Nexus 7 demonstration. Humans hadn't been displaying superiority. They had been demonstrating readiness. The terrifying capabilities they had revealed weren't aimed at the Galactic Council, but at something far worse lurking in the cosmic darkness. What kind of threat are we talking about? Dr. Yilmoth inquired, though his tone suggested he dreaded the answer. Ambassador Telkar's response was delivered with the weight of civilizations in balance. The kind that makes humans look like the safer option. The chamber erupted in discussion as species representatives began connecting data points that had seemed unrelated until now. Unusual energy signatures detected near the galactic rim. Ships disappearing in regions previously considered safe. Communication blackouts in sectors that should have been under constant monitoring. The humans have been tracking this threat for months, Admiral Kethros realized aloud. That's why they've been developing enhanced special operations forces. They're preparing for asymmetric warfare against an enemy that conventional military thinking can't address. Ambassador Zektar's crystalline form shifted to a complex pattern of colors indicating analytical thought. If humans with their proven tactical abilities are concerned enough to reveal capabilities they've kept secret for decades, what exactly are we facing? The question was answered by the chamber's main communication system activating without authorization. The voice that emerged was familiar from the Nexus 7 demonstration, calm and professional despite the breach of protocol. Galactic Council, this is Colonel Sarah Chun, commanding officer of Human Special Operations Command. We apologize for the unauthorized communication, but circumstances require immediate discussion. Security alerts began sounding throughout the chamber as technicians struggled to determine how the human signal was bypassing their most secure communication networks. The fact that humans could simply decide to address the Council whenever they chose was another reminder of how completely their defensive assumptions had been shattered. We're aware that our demonstration has caused considerable concern, Colonel Chun continued. We want to provide context that should alleviate some fears while explaining the necessity of our capabilities. Chancellor Mordun found her voice. Colonel Chun, while we appreciate your desire to communicate, unauthorized access to Council systems is a serious violation of diplomatic protocol. Understood, Chancellor. We'll withdraw immediately if you prefer, but we believe you need to see what we've been tracking. With your permission, we'd like to share intelligence that explains why we've accelerated our special operations development. The Council chamber fell silent as representatives weighed the implications. Humans were offering information that might explain their recent revelations, but they were doing so by demonstrating yet another impossible capability. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. Proceed, Colonel, Chancellor Mordun decided. But understand that this communication is being recorded and will become part of official Council records. Acknowledged. Transmitting data now. The chamber's main display illuminated with star charts showing the galactic rim. Red markers indicated the locations of recent anomalies. And, as the display updated with additional data points, a pattern emerged that sent chills through every observer. 3 months ago, we detected artificial gravity signatures moving through the dark nebula, Colonel Chin explained. The energy patterns don't match any known technology. More concerning, they appear to be analyzing our defensive installations and trade routes. New markers appeared on the display, showing the progression of the unknown contacts. They moved in precise formations, methodically mapping key strategic locations throughout the galaxy. The pattern suggested intelligence gathering operations of staggering scope and sophistication. 2 weeks ago, we lost contact with long-range reconnaissance drones deployed to monitor the situation. The drones simply vanished, with no distress signals or debris fields. Analysis of their final transmissions suggests they were absorbed by something that can manipulate matter at the molecular level. The implications struck the assembly like a physical force. An enemy that could disintegrate matter and absorb technology represented a threat beyond conventional military response. Such capabilities would render traditional defensive strategies useless. Yesterday, we detected movement toward inhabited systems, Colonel Chin continued. Our analysts estimate first contact within 6 months. Conventional forces will be ineffective against an enemy that can simply unmake our weapons and ships. The only viable defense requires small, highly trained units capable of operating independently and striking at critical vulnerabilities. Ambassador Zektar's crystalline form was now cycling through colors so rapidly it created a strobing effect. You're saying that the terrifying capabilities you demonstrated are the minimum requirements for defending against this threat. That's correct, Ambassador. The enemy we're facing makes our demonstration look like a training exercise. What you saw at Nexus 7 represents our basic operational capability, not our maximum potential. The statement hung in the air like a death sentence. If humans considered their galaxy-reshaping demonstration to be basic training, what did their full capabilities look like? And, more importantly, what kind of enemy required such overwhelming force to counter? What are you asking from the Council? Chancellor Mordun inquired, though her tone suggested she already suspected the answer. Permission to expand special operations training to include volunteers from Council species. The coming conflict will require capabilities that no single race possesses. We need the Vraxian ability to manipulate energy, the Hive Cluster's coordination protocols, the Aquatic Collective's deep space operational skills. Combined with human tactical doctrine, we might have a chance. Dr. Yilmotha's voice carried a note of desperate hope. A chance at what? Victory. Survival. Colonel Chun replied simply. This isn't about winning a war, Doctor. It's about ensuring that organic life continues to exist in this galaxy. The enemy we're facing doesn't conquer or occupy. It consumes. Everything it touches ceases to exist in any meaningful sense. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the full scope of the situation became clear. Humans hadn't been preparing for war. They had been preparing for an extinction event. Their terrifying capabilities weren't meant to dominate other species, but to preserve all species against something far worse. The choice before you is simple, Colonel Chin concluded. You can continue viewing humans as a potential threat and maintain the current strategic balance, or you can accept that the strategic balance is about to become irrelevant. In 6 months, the only question that will matter is whether we've prepared enough defenders to keep the lights of civilization burning. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in contemplative silence. Every representative understood that they had just been presented with a choice that would define the future of galactic civilization. The humans they had feared were offering to teach their most closely guarded secrets to anyone willing to learn. The predators they had been afraid of were asking to train them to become predators themselves. Chancellor Mordun looked out over the assembly of 300 species, each one grappling with the same impossible decision. Trust the humans and risk becoming something unrecognizable, or maintain independence and risk becoming nothing at all. The vote, when it came, would change everything. But, as reports of accelerating anomalies from the dark nebula continued to arrive, the Council was beginning to realize that everything was going to change regardless. The only question was whether they would choose their transformation or have it forced upon them by something that made human special forces look like gentle diplomats. In the end, the choice between fear and extinction wasn't really a choice at all.